So let me clear this up again. I'm not a gangster or a gangster. When I was younger, okay, I used to hang out with a lot of gang members, and I took on the identity of Crip, and I tried to be of a Crip, and I tried to be their leader spiritually, and they didn't want that. They basically accepted me and didn't really see the difference between them and me, right? Because of the spectrum of being a Crip. Okay, so again, it's interesting to note that they didn't truly appreciate why I wasn't like them, basically, right? For the most part, because of the spectrum, and the variations of being a Crip. First of all, when I was younger, I was taught the word Crip was an acronym that stood for Community Revolution in Progress and Christ Rest in Peace. Okay, I did not see this thing as some gang that's just rapes and kills and robs and so on and so forth. I knew that stuff goes on. That stuff goes on with any race, with any country, with any state, any city, etc. Any high school. Okay, well, a lot of high school, a lot of urban high schools. That was almost neither here nor there to me, because I knew it was a reaction to the evil society, the Babylonian society. White people, and I'm not racist, I'm part white, were called devils to a large degree, right? Anyone that rolled with the status quo. If you rolled with the police and the government and the hate groups, or you took on a kind of unfair stance toward black people, you were considered that race, devil. You see what I'm saying? So people don't really understand the situation. Okay, now let's look at the movies here. Okay, I'm gonna name 11 movies real quickly that prove my point, go through them briefly. Bring up a few more things. We'll wrap this video up. I'm not glamorizing. No, I don't think anyone should join a gang and so on and so forth. Okay, let's get to this. Okay. 1 is South Central, the movie. 2, Baby Boy. 3, A Time to Kill. 4, American History X. 5, Menace Society. 6, Boys in the Hood. 7, Snoop and his movie. Snoop Dogg, the guy. Okay, there's some movies he has. 8, Friday. 9, 187. 10, Tookie. 11, the NWA guys and their movie. Okay, so when you watch these movies and you think about being in their shoes, it takes on a new meaning, and you start to see the spectrum. What is the difference between Debo from Friday and Smokey and Ice Cube? Okay. Now, number 1, South Central. Okay. Now remember, the white man puts a huge emphasis on trying to make him look good and make black people look bad, make them seem ghetto, show them images of starving black people, dirty black people. It goes on and on and on. Part of it has to do with physiology and DNA, right? White people were kind of in the snow. They went from having heavy armor, moving kind of slow, right? Slow, snow, and they had muskets, right? They weren't really intense warriors that were lean and had the ideal body that people go for in the gym when they're trying to appeal to women. And I'm not talking about big and strong, but kind of lean and kind of well-defined, right? And handsome and so on and so forth. Okay, again, I'm not racist, I'm part white. I don't believe any race is superior per se, but the hybrid, right? You know, it's a long story. I do believe black people have a genetic advantage naturally, but in a sense it doesn't matter, because where society's going, transhumanism, so on and so forth. And I do believe that the hybrid, when bred correctly toward morality, is ideal. Okay, however, it's not so important to me. Righteousness is important. Okay, so I didn't go around looking for, let me find a mixed woman to date. In fact, I preferred other races to black women. It's a long story why that is. But moving on, let's look at this thing. Okay, number 1, South Central. Okay, in South Central, it's about this guy who's from Hoovers, the Hoover Crip gang. Eventually, in real life, they became the Hoover Criminals. They started wearing orange, but it's a long story for another day. Okay, so he goes to prison, becomes a Muslim, comes out, and he starts talking about morality. Okay, to some degree, tries to get his son back, and he says, he wants to give his son what they never had, a father. It shows you how society oppresses people and kind of push them toward being a gangster. And it shows that, we look at it, no white person in real life, okay, that I've ever heard of went beyond that character in the movie in terms of being moral. Okay, so immediately, this kind of white society saying, oh, he's a gangster, honey, stay away from him, and none of them go beyond being moral. It's similar to, to the spectrum of a Crip being moral. So they're not judging them as individuals. Now, if the guy is hanging out with criminals and refuses to do the right thing, refuses to choose love over being a Crip, it's a failure. One of these guys, Little Sodi, said that he's a man before he's a Crip. We have Tookie, we'll get to that, the Don't Be Like Me books, we'll get to that, okay? So, to me, there's no excuse for not seeing the difference between, Tyrese and Baby Boy, the next movie I'm going to talk about, and Debo from Friday, or the bad Crips in the movie. It's fucking obvious, right? If you can't tell the difference between me and the most rough, mean, and evil looking and being Crip out there, you're a fucking idiot. If you can't tell the difference between me and someone born in Compton who's rough and ruthless, in the 90s or something, you're an idiot. So Baby Boy is about this guy. He's lovey-dovey, right? And he like cheats on her. Somehow I don't remember if he cheats on her or not, but he has some chick there, da 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 da, and there's other Crips in the movie, and there's this kind of spectrum that's created. I suggest you see it. I don't want to, I just make this video quicker. Okay. 3, A Time to Kill. There's guys who are modeled after the Crip guys who fight with the Ku Klux Klan in the movie, with a lot of other people on their side fighting with them, right, in a riot. Okay, to show you who's more right, right? Is the white racist guy who doesn't treat black people fairly right? Or is the gang member who's like, fuck you for not treating me fairly and not giving me opportunities? Fucking no-brainer, okay? Then in the movie, Samuel L. Jackson, who's not a gang member, his daughter gets raped and killed, and he comes out of the closet and guns him down, right? And then they let him off in the movie on top of that, even though he went out there, premeditated, and assassinated them and injured a police officer or a prison guard, whatever that guy was, okay? And he caused him to be crippled. And that guy even said, free him. Okay? What does this tell you, right? If that guy was a Crip, should we judge the situation differently? Right? It's fucking retarded. He came to the conclusion that I came to when I was a youngster, that you're better off resisting violently than assimilating. Okay? And the movie, people in the movie agreed, basically, and society, basically. I never came across a single person that said he was wrong. I came across countless people saying if they touch their daughters or something, if they kill people and stuff like this. Okay. Anyway, number 4, American History X. It's about a bunch of skinheads, and then toward the beginning of the movie, there's some kind of, or maybe it's at the very start, there's some kind of home invasion by this Crip guy. The guy puts his mouth on the curb and hits him in the back of the head. They call it, there's some special term for it, and then he shoots this guy, and he starts acting like a satanic Nazi guy afterwards, and seething with Luciferian energy, satanic energy, what have you. Toward the end of the movie, one of these Crip guys, shoots that guy's little brother. Boom. Okay, so what is society pitted? Society raised poor white people a certain way. Kind of rich white society raised poor black people a certain way. They kind of pitted them against each other. The poor white guy is still more in the wrong because he's representing for white supremacy and Satanism. These guys are kind of gangsters who, you get what I'm saying. So you see time and time again, the Crip is in the right. He's not perfectly right, and there's a spectrum that eventually led up to me being Christ, and so even right there, Crip is in the word script, right? S-C-R-I-P-T. We can remove the S and the T and get script. We can get Crip T's, right? T-S, right? They're skywalking, Crip walking, having a Crip set, right? T's, right? Women dressing a certain way, saying, hey, you guys are very macho, and there's all these attractive, healthy women from different races, but you can't have them because you're stigmatized, and so on and so forth. So the more you listen to this, I suggest you watch this video several times and take fucking notes, and you'll come to the definitive conclusion that it wasn't really a mistake for me to start off trying to be a Crip because everyone else in society was so wrong. There's kind of gap insurance, right? There's a gap that's growing bigger as they play stupid about the problem and date toward wicked people, okay, between the mainstream society and these guys who are trying to do the right thing. All right, then we get Boys in the Hood, okay? It's basically as Ice Cube again. He's not that bad of a guy in the movie. It shows you a little bit what's it like. There's certain scenes that give away the humanity and the kind of deep, kind of caring nature of black people, and it starts to define why people are wrong to just assume that Crips are bad guys. Most people in California, most people in America probably don't make that mistake, but some people do. So and in the future they might make that mistake. So I'm gonna overkill this. Okay, next we see Snoop. Okay, so what was it? We got 6. Obviously, they've done several things in this video to try to make it so, you like to take away from it. If you figure them out, if you figure it out, if you don't, you don't. But keep that in mind. Again, white people go way the distance. They used to have black faces. They came up with all kinds of racial terms for black people. They went way the distance to try to seem superior, and that increased the gap between the black guy as the moral date versus the white guy. Okay, it was stupid, stupid, stupid. If I was their offspring, I'd be pissed. Some of their offspring are pissed, And there's a spectrum of how angry they are and what stance they take as a result. Okay, some white guys were Crips. This one guy killed the Williams sisters, the tennis players, had a third sister, was killed by a white Crip from Compton. Okay. Anyway, so Yeah, I'm almost out of batteries too, and I made this video way too long. So Snoop Dogg, it kind of goes without saying, do your own research on that. 8, the movie Friday, again has Ice Cube. It has Chris Tucker and Devo. You know, and that guy eventually died of the coronavirus or something. He died of something like that recently, fairly recently, last couple of years or so. 9, the movie 187. Okay, there's a scene in the movie where there's some, so one of the things that happened over the years is they put the Hispanic community more in the wrong than the black community by their alliance in popular culture, and it's more complicated than that. You know, they don't necessarily align with them. In a sense, they are. The simple answer is all gangs are aligned to the white power structure at this point. Okay, but they're more aligned with them than a lot of groups, the Mexican Mafia and the Aryan Brotherhood. Okay, no disrespect to these groups in these videos. In this video, okay, they came together to attack black people, and at one point, not that long ago, like 10 years ago or something, they said that every black gang member at first was green-lighted by the Mexican Mafia, and every black person, and there's some truth to that. It's a long story why that is, okay, and of course, they're put in this situation, and on and on and on, okay. So, where was I? And there's a lot of them, right? There's more Serranos in California, if I'm not mistaken, certainly in Los Angeles, than there are Crips, okay? So anyway, and even though there's Asian Crips too, it's a fucking long story why this stuff is. Let me just shoot through this, almost out of time. Okay, so that there's a scene, this Mexican guy, he writes this thing and to the teacher, he says he's dating this black guy, and he calls him a name. There's another black guy who's a big gangster, stares at him, and he says, yeah, I'm gonna get even with you, and he runs out of the room, right? So the black guy's more on the right, okay? All these people are racist against him. There's only 13% of America, and only a fraction of those guys take a hostile kind of stance and join gangs and what have you. Okay, anyway, so where was I here? Oh yeah, then of course you have Samuel L. Jackson. He says, the black guy who's similar to the black guy in A Time to Kill, which also has Crip guys ish in there in the movie. Okay, is trying to help him out and eventually blows his own brains out. And that guy trying to prove he's more macho blows his own brains out. Anyway, moving on, and there's all kinds of symbolism there. And the story has to do with gangs. You can draw all kinds of parallels. All right, so number 10, Tookie as a movie. Okay, he writes all these children's books, says, don't be like me. No one did it to the degree he did it, if I'm not mistaken, and became famous for it. And he's this big, strong guy who's stronger than Arnold Schwarzenegger. It goes back to when he gets executed, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was the governor, and they had a little weightlifting competition. He was bigger than, he met this guy in Muscle Beach, in Muscle Gym or Muscle Beach, whatever it's called, Venice Beach, so on and so forth. Anyway, 11, the NWA movie, and so on and so forth. You can watch the movie, you'll see what I mean. Ice Cube, and so on and so forth. Okay. Remember, they're changing my mannerisms, my voice, the way I look, using fumes, drugs, and technology, and hacking my brain, and so on and so forth. That's important to know. Anyway, so I went over the Crip Act. So Sanika Shakur also proves my point. And Sanika Shakur even named himself after Tupac Shakur. Snoop Dogg and the Dog Pound rapped with Tupac Shakur. And of course the Black Panther connection. Black Panther turned to Crips. The movie Made in America. Raymond, Batman, Tookie, Jamel, and other founding members of the Crips. You can tell these are like regular high school kind of tough guys. They're not really bad guys like the people who started the Ku Klux Klan and the neo-Nazis and so on and so forth. Well, I'm out of time.